We have about 550 people registered for this webinar, so we were trying to give people just a little bit more time, but we are going to go ahead and start. My name is Chaz Kaiser. I am the communications manager for the West Africa Trade and Development Hub that is funded by the United States Agency for International Development. And on behalf of the Trade Hub, I'm just really happy to have so many people interested in the power of the bee. I'd also like to take this opportunity before we delve in to thank our co-hosts, the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project, WABLED, which is a successor of the West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change Program. And they're headquartered in Accra, Ghana, right up the street from where I am. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Global Shea Alliance, also with headquarters based in Ghana, for co-hosting this webinar with the Trade Hub. I sent everyone an email with some webinar etiquette rules, along with the wrong link at first, but I'm sure that's getting corrected. And so I just want to briefly touch upon some webinar etiquette rules so we can have as few technical difficulties as possible and make the webinar enjoyable for everyone. First, if you are more comfortable speaking or listening in French, we have an interpretation room, a French room, and we have three wonderful interpreters, Celeste, Edgar, and there is another interpreter who just signed on today because we were like, these are so many presentations, so we're grateful. And I forget his name, but he's wonderful too. So we have three interpreters in the French room. If you prefer speaking in French, listening in French, or you just want to practice French, you can go to the French room and then you can go back and forth between them as well. With regards to webinar etiquette, please keep yourself muted throughout. Please keep your video off throughout, only because it will really affect our bandwidth and we have a lot of presentations. We do absolutely want to be able to answer as many questions as we can, and that will come at the end of the French, at the end of the webinar. To get into the French room, someone is asking, at the bottom of your screen, you should see what looks like a globe. And underneath the globe, it says interpretation. And if you click on the button that says interpretation, you should be able to click on French. And that should take you to the French room. If you have problems, we have about 3 or 4 comm specialists checking for problems. And so if you have a problem, please type it into the chat box. All right, speaking of the chat box, that is how you will ask questions. Because there's so many people on the call, which is good, we can't have everyone raising their hands to ask questions because we won't see the hands. So if you have a question, please type your question directly into the chat box. As a reference point, it's always helpful to know who's asking the question. So for example, I would say Chaz with shea butter special, that's not a good name. Chaz with shea butter special, and then I would put a little colon and my question would be, how many bees are there in West Africa? I just made that up. But so you put your name in, you put your company in preferably, and then you put your question. And so that way, at the end of the webinar, when as moderator, I'm giving questions to our presenters, and we can have a reference point and even give you a shout out. All right, so speaking of our presenters, we will be introducing them, or I will be introducing them a bit later, but I still want to go ahead and acknowledge their presence and say thank you in advance. We have Shannon Hess with Burt's Bees. I actually have Burt's Bees lip balm on, can't see her. Burt's Bees, and she is actually, it's very early where she is. She's on Central Standard Time in the States, but she woke up early to be able to offer you information on all the wonderful things that Burt's Bees is doing through its Trade Hub USA funded project in Ghana. working with shea farmers. So she is on the line to share information on her project that is funded through USAID Ghana. We also have representatives from Koster Keunen, funded through Prosper Africa. And Koster Keunen operates in Ghana and a number of countries in West Africa to source beeswax for export. And so we have I wrote the name down, Silva Katin. Did I say that right? Kata. Okay, sorry, Silva. We have, and he will introduce himself and say his name the way it should be said. We have Silva on the line, and he will be talking about Koster Keunen and their Trade Hub funded project and how they are working with farmers in mango, shea, and I believe another crop. And then, of course, we have Mr. Cecil Wilson, who works for Universal Outreach Foundation. And Universal Outreach Foundation is actually a former grantee of WABIC, which is now WABLED. And Cecil, through Universal Outreach Foundation, has a really robust beekeeping initiative, and he's trained hundreds of beekeepers. And I think he can talk about it. They even have a beekeeping conference going on right now, and so hopefully he's tuned in. And in addition to Cecil, we will also be able to hear from a woman named Etta Thompson, and she's AKA the Queen Bee. So we can actually hear directly from a farmer, which I think is very important. So before we jump into the webinar, again, you are from Farm to Beehive. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to go through the agenda, but before I do, I wanted to show a very short video that I think captures just the power of beekeeping, especially for improving women's livelihoods. And so I will go ahead and show it, and then we will start with the rest of the webinar. And this, so you know, let me see, 1 second. I want to, give me 1 second.
We see Liberia as being rich in so many ways. It's rich in family, in community, in expression. And after living here for 10 years, there's a lot of things we really appreciate about this country. But having said that, we also have to acknowledge that Liberia has some very serious challenges, and that for the average parent here, providing for their family isn't always easy. The most common request we've encountered during our time in Liberia is the need for employment. We've come to really admire this persistence because it makes us realize that people are motivated to provide for themselves and for their children. We think that all parents, regardless of where they live, want the best for their child. They want them to eat good food, to go to bed at night knowing the roof isn't going to leak, to know that when they wake up in the morning, they're going to get to go to school. We want to help Liberian parents have the financial strength to provide for their children and to meet their needs. This is why we're committed to the development of the beekeeping industry in Liberia. So many farmers here exist in this uncertain financial world where the money needed to get by, or better yet, improve their family's life, isn't always there. Beekeeping gives these farmers the chance to significantly increase their incomes, and that's a really amazing thing in our eyes.
All right, thank you, Universal Outreach Foundation, for letting us see your video. I will quickly run through the agenda. Up next, we're going to have Ms. Aminata Mbai, who is the Deputy Chief of Party, our new Deputy Chief of Party for the Trade Hub, to give opening remarks and share information on the Trade Hub. We will also have Mr. Aaron Adu, Managing Director for the Global Shea Alliance, to give co-host remarks. And Mr. Stephen Kelleher, Chief of Party for the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project. And I thought it was very important to just allow all of these co-hosts, including Trade Hub Aminata, to share information on their project, because all of us are either USAID funded or like USAID funded in part, and we are regional projects for Global Shea Alliance. They're a global project, but we're just working on a lot of just interesting initiatives that I'm pretty sure if you're an agribusiness or you're an NGO, you would be interested in learning about. And so that is why we'll be very keen to let them introduce themselves. And then again, we have our co-host. I did not get to Mr. Joseph Bunt, who is also going to be presenting. He is with Partnership for Natural Ingredients. And the Q&A at the end will be with Shannon Silva Joseph, where you again can feel free to type in questions in the chat box, and then our comms team will be compiling all of those and answering your questions. I do want to note that Burt's Bees, Koster Keunen, and UOF, they're companies. And so please refrain from asking about any financial data, because they won't be able to provide that. All right, thank you. And we will go ahead and get started with Ms. Aminata Mbai. Aminata, if you could share not share your screen. If you would like to, you could go ahead and turn on your video.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Chaz. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. So as Chaz said, my name is Aminata Mbai, and I'm the new Deputy Chief of Party for the West Africa Trade and Investment Hub that's funded by USAID. I am delighted to be here today, very happy to be attending this webinar. I'm glad to see so many folks on this call, as well as some USAID folks, so I'm very excited about this. We are also excited to be co-hosting this webinar with the two USAID partners that Charles already talked about, the Global Shea Alliance and the Wabilat Project. I've been with the Trade Hub only 3 weeks, so this is the first event that I have the honor of representing the Trade Hub. And I'm very excited to learn more about beekeeping. So I'm gonna stop my video and start telling you more about the Trade Hub. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Trade Hub, I just wanted to share some information as our interests and activities are wide-ranging. And perhaps some of the companies and organizations attending this webinar could be interested in partnering with the Trade Hub. So the Trade Hub is one of the largest projects funded by USAID in Africa in terms of not only its funding, which is around $144 million. We have also around 50 staff and more, and we work and invest in several countries, 14 countries and more. Our overall mission is to increase sustainable economic development in West Africa. We do this by partnering or co-investing, as we call it, with West African and US-based private sector firms to launch or sustain high-impact projects focused in key sectors. Essentially, the way this works is we award leading and high-potential companies with grant money, ranging from $250,000 to $2 million to launch projects key to their growth. The grant award, while given through the Trade Hub, are actually funded by various USAID missions in West Africa and Prosper Africa, which is a major US government initiatives focused on increasing two-way trade between the US and Africa. I want to highlight that the grant funds through USAID and Prosper Africa is not free money. Our partners in turn must leverage their own capital and resources to ensure their project success. And to become a Trade Hub partner, companies have to present an exceptionally compelling business case that helps meet each USAID mission objective in their respective countries. Most of our co-investment partnerships are focused on boosting companies' ability to compete and thrive in key sectors, supporting the livelihoods of West African workers, including helping them to support food security and creating jobs, which of course are key to economic growth. But also, as our name implies, a Trade Hub, we are also heavily focus on trade. So one of our goals is to work with the companies we partner with to increase trade between the US and West Africa and leveraging the many benefits offered through the US government African Growth and Opportunity Act, which is AGOA. For those of you that are unfamiliar with this important act, you can learn more about it through the Trade Hub website. The Trade Hub launched in 2019. It's a 5-year project that will run through September 2024. By the end of the project, we have and will have a lot of work to do to achieve our mission. So far, we have partners with 69 different companies doing business in West Africa. In less than four more months, we will likely have 100 partners and will have awarded all our grant money and be focused entirely on ensuring our partners' success. These partners companies range from large name brand companies like Burt that Chaz mentioned earlier, a US skincare brand that sources key natural ingredients from suppliers in Ghana, to Thrive in Nigeria, which is using technology service to boost farmers' productivity and access to finance and market. We also partner with companies in the financial sector, such as Coordinated Investment Management, one of our earliest grantees, and Lotfi Inc., one of our newest. Through co-investment with companies in the financial sector, we're able to funnel much needed capital to smaller business in West Africa. For example, through Lotfi Inc.'s USAID supported initiative called Project Sparrow, the company will be instrumental in assisting at least 20 high potential agribusiness in Nigeria to improve their operation, get further investment ready, and create jobs for thousands of smallholder farmers. Although we are heavily focused on investing in companies that have the potential to boost food security in the region or export product to the US, not all our partners have this focus. For example, through USAID, we are helping to fund 3 eco-lodges in Liberia in effort to prevent deforestation. In Cote d'Ivoire, we are working with a company called Coliba to reduce plastic waste. In the island nation of Cabo Verde, we're helping to fight the ongoing COVID-19 epidemic through assisting a company called Infarma to increase their production of disinfectants and sanitizers. In my home country of Senegal, which is where I'm from, we have co-invested with West Africa Water, which is providing clean, affordable drinking water. So far, we have awarded 6.5 million in grants, and companies have promised to bring a collective 49.2 million in private capital and resources to our partnership table. Through our partnership with these companies, we have created more than 8,000 direct jobs and made 8.9 million in export possible. By this time next year, all these numbers are expected to grow rapidly, which is what it takes to achieve a lasting impact in the region, and which is also USAID ultimate goal. I really hope that the information that I have shared about the Trade Hub is helpful to all of you. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Chaz so she can introduce our co-hosts. As Chaz noted, they're both USAID partners, and I'm extremely excited in learning about the important work they also do in the region. Thank you so much. Chaz, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Aminata, for that wonderful introduction of the Trade Hub. And thank you for being our Deputy Chief of Party. Next, we will have Mr. Aaron Adu, Managing Director of the Global Shea Alliance, also in Accra, Ghana. We're based in Accra, Ghana, to come up and then share information on the Global Shea Alliance's work. I do understand that we have a lot of companies involved in shea on the call, and so welcome to you. We're so glad that you were able to join. So Cecil, if you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chaz.
Aaron, if you're ready.
Yes.
Sorry, sir.
No problem. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I know a number of the people here, a number of them we've worked together. Special hello to Shannon Hess, a former board member of the Global Shea Alliance, and Mr. Joseph Font, the former managing director. They did an amazing job. So the Global Shea Alliance is it's a member-based organization, member-based nonprofit that works to promote shea worldwide and then also ensure the competitiveness of the industry. We operate as a non-profit, but we are member-based. So we are driven, our strategy is driven by what the members want and in general, what advances the industry. Our strategic pillars include promotion, that is finding new markets around the world for share. And we do that through conferences, exhibitions, research, and policy advocacy. Our second strategic pillar is sustainability, ensuring the future of the share industry. And we do this through women empowerment and protection of the share ecosystem. Our third pillar is policy advocacy at the country level, regional level, and international level. Every policy that government or regulators bring in that in one way or the other will impact the businesses of our members, we find ways to get involved in, and the aim is to ensure that our members have a very smooth business environment in the various countries that they work in. Now, this particular webinar is very important because it forms part of our sustainability program. We are currently piloting a project in Nigeria we call integrated farming model. We are now piloting it. The lessons learned will be out at the end of this year. We'll publish it for everybody. What this integrated farming model seeks to do is to help preserve the shade trees that are on the various farms. Because as most of you know, we are losing a lot of trees which are being cut for several purposes. So how do we encourage landowners, communities, farmers to preserve shade trees? In the past, we have done this through getting the chiefs to put a ban in place. We've done this through setting up bylaws. We've done this through trainings and other things. But they have had some impact, but the expected impact has not been as enormous or as positive as we expect. So this integrated farming model seeks to protect trees on farm by helping farmers do additional activities like mixed cropping. So in between the shade trees, they cultivate all of the staple food that they need. They cultivate the vegetables that they need. They plant the the fruit trees that they need. Then they use local materials like share waste and other things to produce organic fertilizer, and then apply this on the farm to cultivate the crops that they need. Now, beekeeping is one important aspect because it helps to bring the other stakeholders in the ecosystem, you know, part of the birds, well, and then the bees especially, that would come and hopefully pollinate the shade trees. And this integrated farming model, we are hoping that it will help not only protect and secure shade trees on the farms, but it will also ensure food security because the farmers are able to cultivate everything that they need. So we are very happy to participate in this webinar. We've shared it to our members. A number of the recorded and the presentations and share it with a broader member base, compare it with the pilot project we are doing. And I must emphasize that in that pilot project, beekeeping is part of the activities being undertaken by the women cooperatives, in addition to the crops that they are actually planting. So we are excited to be here, and I'm very grateful to USAID for the continuous support they've given to the GNSA, and very happy to meet all of you. And thanks to you, Charles, for organizing this, and hello to everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron with Global Shea Alliance, for just really explaining the importance of beekeeping and how it relates to your hundreds of people involved in shea production. Next, we will have Mr. Stephen Kelleher, the Chief of Party for the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project, share what all the great things that his project is doing, and information on the old project on Wabalet. So Stephen, if you're ready, we'd love to hear from you.
Here I am. Yes, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be on this webinar today. Thank you, Chaz, for engaging with us. As Chaz mentioned, we are the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Program. We have three main components: combating wildlife trafficking, reducing deforestation, forest degradation, and biodiversity loss, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions through conservation of forests and the restoration of forest landscapes. Excuse me, we were the West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change Project. That was the predecessor project. Tabi led, and we're using this opportunity provided to us by USAID West Africa to build on the results and progress we made under WABIC, noting that natural resource management is a big investment, as we all certainly know who work in the sector, and it's great we have this opportunity to build on, scale up, and hopefully lock in some sustainability gains that we made through WABIC. What I really do want to do today, though, because my colleague Nuhu will present on some of our results related to beekeeping, and that's really what I just wanted to have us focus on. We are West Africa wide, like the Trade Hub, all 15 ECOWAS member states, but our fieldwork is generated in transboundary forest landscapes of the remaining high tropical forest zone that used to be the Ghanaian forest ecosystem, but as there's been so much deforestation and degradation, there are only some remnants that remain across the region. Some of those remnants are, however, incredibly important for local, national, regional, and global biodiversity. And one of our objectives is to help maintain that, to work with communities, as has been said, to generate income as an incentive to maintain forests, but also while generating income, because we certainly want conservation to deliver on livelihood benefits. So we're going to present that we did gain from the WABIC program, in that we will now be able to scale up and replicate across those landscapes, which the landscapes we work in traverse, there's one called Tai Grebo Kran Sapo between Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire. There's one Gola between Liberia and Sierra Leone. A third one is Yama Wanagizi Walogizi between Liberia and Guinea. And under Wabi-led, we're exploring activities in two new landscapes, the Utamba Kalimi Medina Ula landscape between Sierra Leone and Guinea, and also the Mount Nimba tri-national landscape between Guinea, Liberia, and Cote d'Ivoire. I'll emphasize that along with our combating wildlife trafficking work, we also have an emphasis on chimpanzee conservation and sustainable future for the West African chimpanzees. And a lot of those landscapes have the remaining populations of chimpanzees in West Africa. And so we work with many partners on that. We also have a strong emphasis on private sector engagement. We're about to launch a market assessment activity that's going to help identify some, forest-based, forest-friendly, non-timber forest product enterprises, and that's where partners like Trade Hub will be very important to share lessons, as many of the other partners on this call. So it's great to actually this webinar, the organization of it has been a great opportunity to engage with Trade Hub. And also UOF, that was a big partner of ours during WABIC. And again, Nuhu's presentation will present some of our cooperation. But also great to have this discussion with Global Shade Alliance and Burt's Bees, because I find that through these exchanges, we see all sorts of opportunities for adding value to each other's work and scaling up activities so that we can get more, in this case, beehives to more women or youth or communities, and generate more income. And for us, again, that means there's less deforestation because there's a great incentive to conserve forests. So it's great to see old and new partners on this, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from partners that I'm less familiar with, and see how we might also identify opportunities to collaborate. But we have found, and Nuhu will underscore this certainly, because I really want our interventions to be focused on our experience and what we've been able to do working with UOF and communities, mainly in Liberia, but again, the Wabi-led opportunity gives us a chance to expand that across our other landscapes. And it's great, again, for biodiversity, for bees themselves, which we know are threatened in many parts of the world. So we just are happy to have this opportunity to participate in this webinar, share some of our experiences that I hope are relevant to others, and we can get more details out on that and how we've gone about our work under the WABIC and now Wabi-led program. And we welcome this collaboration. Very excited about it, and we look forward to also keeping, even after this webinar, keeping in contact with many people, again, so we can scale up and add value and to beekeeping and also other very important conservation and small enterprises that benefit people as well as biodiversity. So thank you very much again to the co-hosts, and it's great to have this opportunity to present some of what we've been able to accomplish through USAID support and the West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change Program, and now the Wabi-led program. So thank you very much, and back over to you, Chaz.
Right. Thank you for that great introduction of Wabi-led and sharing what all the great things that WABIC did as well. I'd like to go ahead and bring on Inhu and Down, whose name I should know how to pronounce because I worked with him for a whole year. But he is a biodiversity and conservation specialist. I've actually been to the forest in Liberia with Nuhu. I know he's passionate about anything that can support conservation. But one of the things I really like about Nuhu is that he really tries to work with the communities to not only just say, don't cut down these trees, don't do this mining, but to offer alternative solutions that benefits them as well. And He's really passionate about beekeeping because beekeeping is one of those solutions. So Nuhu, if you are ready, you can share your presentation and begin.
Thank you very much, Shaz, and thank you for the introduction also, Stephen. We are Wabile, the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emission Development. This is a successor of the previous program of USAID called WABIC, West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change. I was part of WABIC, and we initiated this conservation, looking at the strategy. I'm so blessed to be also part of Wabile. That's why I stand to be one of the best to share with you this experience. As Stephen said, we are coming from conservation angle, but because we work within the communities and we work with communities and we want to provide alternative to communities, we were strategizing and looking for various tools to conserve the forest while providing economic incentive to communities, and beekeeping, it was one of them. So I'm happy to be here to share that. So we started by looking at the forest, and as Stephen said to you, we are West Africa, but in terms of making impact on the ground, we focus on the remaining 11% of the West African forest, mainly in Upper Guinea forest. And we work with regional partner, Mano River Union Secretariat, which has 4 countries, and we work under the ECOWAS regional partners. And the key thing was, how can we help them protect the remaining forests? So we identify 3 major landscapes, and Stephen presented them already to you. They are all starting from Liberia, one going to Sierra Leone, another one to Guinea, and another one to Cote d'Ivoire. So we decided to engage 60 communities around these 3 transboundary landscapes. And then we try to show them that instead of just farming, and we know how we farm these days, shifting cultivation, which is not really friendly to the forest, we want them to look at alternative way of earning benefit from the forest. And we look at the beekeeping and introduce this tool to them. And fortunately for us, we were looking for a company to be able to build their capacity and take them along when the WABIC will stop. And we identified that there was able company there, Universal Outreach Foundation, and I'm glad that they are here and they will share their experience with you. We started with their video. So they build the capacity of over 500 farmers around our protected areas, our landscape. And not only that, they try to link them to market and make sure that contrary to what farmers usually experience, sometimes they produce and they cannot find the market. For this particular product, we make sure that there's a market. And the Liberia Pure Honey is a label that this company created in Liberia, and it's well known now. In 2018, there was a competition in UK, and they won the first prize for Africa. And so we are happy to be part of this win and trying to support these farmers. We were blessed that the Wabile was also funded and we'll be scaling this thing out and be able to reach more farmers, produce more honey. To zoom into this landscape, you can see where we were working between Gola and looking at the map, Gola between Sierra Leone and Liberia. ZWW is another landscape between Guinea and Liberia, and also the Agribusinesses Sapo, a landscape with protected area from Cote d'Ivoire to Liberia. So we engage more than 60 communities around these protected areas, and we encourage them to work together. So we cluster them based on their geographical location, and we select champions within them to train them on this new skill of producing honey, which is beekeeping. And we supported them with training and material to build their first hives. So when we were living in Wabi, we have more than 500 farmers in these 60 communities with more than 1,000 hives installed, and they were already, some were already their third year, which is the first year of production. But to link this strategy with what we saw on the ground when we were starting, and just me into one of those three landscapes, which is Thai, Grebo, Sapo between Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire. When we got there, there was high rate of deforestation. There were pushing forest degradation and threat to landscape. And you can see in the images the way they are mining, they are farming, and it's always at the loss of the forest and the biodiversity. So in thinking how we can deliver to the mandate of ECOWAS and Mano River Union, asking us to help them save the remaining forests, we identified beekeeping as one of the strategies. And we introduced this alternative income activity to farming. So we build their capacity through Universal Outreach Foundation, and we made them start to realize some interesting relationship between bee production and the forest. Instead of us acting like oranges and telling people, don't enter the forest, don't destroy the forest, don't do this, don't do that, we introduced this tool for them to realize themselves that instead of listening to somebody telling them, don't destroy our forest, they themselves realize that they need a forest because bee will use them for the production of the honey. So we expose them to this technique. We carry them to visit different communities. We even transport them to Cote d'Ivoire so that they can see some of the initiatives going on there, so that they can empower them for the necessary changes that we expect from them. So the question would be, what is the benefit for the farmers in engaging into this? So we look at the monetary side and non-monetary side. So from the benefit side of money, a single hive can produce approximately $87.5 per year. So with the training that they receive from Universal Outreach Foundation, the company guaranteed them to buy their honey. So it's not like you produce and will not find the market. So 1 gallon was agreed to be $17.5. And if you are farmers and you just get some few hive, you can still produce up to 8 gallons honey per year, and times 17.5, you can see how much money you can do without too much work. So there's this monetary benefit from farmers. But what other benefit, indirect benefit we saw was that this particular activity bring farmers together. We are talking of 60 communities interacting among themselves, knowing some of them through these activities, and learning not only the beekeeping techniques, but management techniques, keeping record, presenting things, management tools to be able to work with the group. We told you that we cluster them, and each day has a president, a secretary, and they have activities. They meet weekly. All these things, they become empowerful. They be empowered to be able to do other things through the benefiting from this skill. We also see that through this clustering, through this grouping, through this discussion, some of their problems are tabled, discussed, shared with other groups, and getting feedback, learning from each other. And it's also a learning tool for the society. Let's look at the benefit to company, for example. Why UFO is engaged in this? So many times a company can be set up, start the business, and have to close it because there's no raw material coming in. But here we are engaging farmers, and we will only, because of the limited time and limited funding, engage up to 60 communities, and within it only about 600 farmers, and only producing more than like about 1,000 to 1,200 beehive. But if you really want to push this and get more engagement of farmers, you will get more honey to come, and means the factory will get more product to be able to function. So there's an assurance there that there's a stable market for this. There is a label there already known, as you see on this, Liberia Pure Honey, winning the African First Prize in international competition. In most of the activity, we are project. Project means we are limited in time. And sometimes you wonder what will happen after the project. But when you get private sector in, like getting this UFO in, you are sure that it will continue. They will be sharing their presentation, and you will see that we introduce this aspect, and even after Wabi, the activity continued. We were getting feedback, positive feedback. And now we have Wabile to be able to scale this thing. So we are happy to join them again. So they have this honey, but not only honey come from this activity. There are byproducts which are used in cosmetic or healthcare. So there's a lot of byproduct, and somebody was mentioning already green manure. So there's a lot of things that can come from this activity for the benefit of the company, the benefits of farmers. But we come from the angle of environment, and you will say, what is it there for the environment? When you get the time that the farmer spend in his farm and using the method that we know, shifting cultivation, meaning slashing the forest down, make your crop, after few years, you need to move to another forest area. You feel that we have a challenge there, how to stop this, how to make sure that the economy of the place is booming, while the conservation of biodiversity in that area also is protected. So we have this challenge, and we thought that this bee, by just putting them in their various surrounding forests, will make them to appreciate, because the bee will need the flower of the plant to produce honey. So if you cut all the forest, the bee will not get the plant to be able to produce honey. So the farmer learned this through this activity, and now they are the ones saying we should not cut our forest. This forest should remain. We will do beekeeping here. So through this service, we gradually see that beekeeper awareness of protecting forest is increasing. They don't need forest ranger to come and tell them not to cut, but they also understood that they need to do this to produce honey, and there's a relationship there. So it's generate income. It makes them feel learn more skill that they can use for other things, and we feel that for us that that's what we wanted, protecting the environment while making putting smile to farmers' faces and companies' leaders. So one aspect that I didn't highlight during the farmer thing is that these particular activities is gender, I would call it gender promoter, because I remember in a Galileo village near the border between Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire in Grebo, there was one person physically challenged, but was elected a secretary coordinator of the group. And he was so happy because beekeeping has brought another dimension to him in the society. He was not having that respect. He's now the keeper of the material. He's now the bookkeeper of all their discussion. So he has a place in the society. He is the one leading and assisting farmer to harvest their honey. So you can see, then you even have women. Sometimes we see this beehive needs some technical construction of the hive, carpentry work, and sometimes we feel it's a main thing. But you see female involving in this, getting practical skill, building their own hives. And so women see this activity as really theirs. And if you take Sapo National Park is one of the protected area, Southeast Liberia. We trained 196 beekeepers, and 112 were female, 57% of the group. And they are very active, leading and learning. So we thought in terms of promoting gender, beekeeping is one of the tools to use. The lesson for us is that this activity is addressing conservation, but putting smile to the faces of farmers by giving them more money in terms of selling their honey, but also non-monetary benefit like this learning, leadership skill, social cohesion, and recognition of what we may call marginalized group of the society. We also see that for us, conservationists is a threat reduction strategy tools, because when we use them, we realize that the farmer themselves become champion of the protection of the forest. So you don't need a ranger to come and tell them. So you can see that it's a win-win approach for the farmers, for the conservationists, for the company, because the products are there and the farmers are, there are many. We hope with the Wabilet, we'll be able to increase this. So that's why what bring me to this next step. So with Wabilet now, with this booming thing during Wabi, what should we do? We are now working hardly with our local farmers. We were happy to learn that this activity did not stop after Wabi. We have thanks to UFO and the community, all those leaders that were put in place. We are preparing and getting ready to issue more grant to them to be able to scale up these activities, involve more women and youth, to involve more communities, and to see that there are more people inclined to protect our forests. We are engaging a green enterprise specialist who will be focusing on supporting community with livelihood, and beekeeping is one of them. We are making sure that we will continue to support them in crafting better market, in making sure that they understand value chain market for their product. As Steve mentioned to you, this is one of them. We did cassava, we did other things, we did rice farming and so on. So if our partner want to organize other seminar to share experiences, I think Wabig has and Wabile will be having enough to share. So we are making sure that the link with private sector is key, and we are recruiting a private sector engagement specialist to make sure that for any livelihood alternative that we support, they will try to connect them to market, private sector, and so on. From that, I will say we didn't move from nothing to something, but at least we moved from something to something better. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Nuhu, for that great presentation, and the great introduction, of course, of Wabilet. You can stop sharing your screen, and we are going to actually start with our presentations. But for those who are just joining the call, thank you for joining Farm to Beehive. My name is Chaz Kaiser. I'm the communications manager for the USAID West Africa Trade and Investment Hub. And this webinar is being co-hosted by two other organizations that partner with USAID, the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project and Global Shea Alliance. And at this point in time, we are going to actually hear from companies who are running successful beekeeping initiatives in West Africa. The first person who I would like to bring up is Ms. Shannon Hess, who is dialing in from the States. I think she's on CST time. We're really happy to have her. Just as a little background, and I know Shannon will give much more information, but she helps run a project, a Trade Hub funded project in Ghana called Shekeeper, very cute name and appropriately named. And they source directly from suppliers in Ghana. And the work is just really wonderful in improving women's livelihoods. And Shannon, we're grateful to have you on the line to share everything you and Burt's Bees are doing.
Thank you, Tez, and it's really an honor to be here. Naho, that was an excellent presentation. I think there's so much from your presentation that really resonates with me and our company, Burt. So thank you for that great introduction to the importance of beekeeping around the world, especially with smallholder farmers. I'm Shannon Hess. I'm the Director of Responsible Sourcing for Burt's Bees. And if you are not familiar with Burt's Bees, we are a natural cosmetic company based in the US, and we sell our products in more than 40 countries around the world. We were founded more than 30 years ago by a beekeeper. So beekeeping is very core to our brand and my job, and yeah, it's wonderful to have 500 people on a webinar about beekeeping in West Africa. So I'm really honored to be here, and I'll talk a little bit about how Burt's Bees has been on a journey, a beekeeping journey throughout the world, really. And I'll speak a bit about our project in Ghana to introduce and expand beekeeping in the shea value chain, and some of the successes and challenges that we've faced along the way. So again, thank you for having me. At Burt's Bees, our purpose is to reconnect people with the wisdom, power, and beauty of nature. And within Burt's Bees, we source more than 1,000 ingredients from over 100 countries around the world. So my role is to work in our supply chain with communities, with our suppliers. I spend a lot of time out in the field, tracing all the way back to the origin of the materials that we source, and also am very involved with establishing the criteria of what ingredients can be used in our cosmetic products. So, as I mentioned earlier, Burt Chavez is the founder of Burt's Bees. This is Burt. And while he was beekeeping maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and even we feature his bearded face on some of our products. You see here's a product even called Farmer's Friend. So this product has been around for 25 years, and it's I thought it kind of brought a smile to my face as I was thinking about this presentation and our links to farmers around the world. And so we also do responsibly source beeswax currently from Tanzania and Vietnam, and have worked with our beeswax suppliers to bring more transparency to and traceability to beeswax supply chains. Most people who get into beekeeping are beekeepers because of the honey. And I think what's interesting about how we work with beekeepers in Burt's Bees is that our brand is really interested in the beeswax. There's a strong local market and some export market for honey, but there's less of a local demand for beeswax. And so I think you'll hear more about that on the panel at the end of the presentation. But I think it's important to emphasize here that as a beekeeper, you produce a lot of honey and also some beeswax. Typically, the ratio is, depending on the type of hive, you may have 1 kilo of wax for the equivalent of 10 kilos of honey. You can go as much as potentially 3 kilos of wax in 10 kilos of honey. But I know that there's some another presentation that will go into some of this in more detail later. So just a bit more about our brand. As I mentioned, we're very dedicated to using natural ingredients. Burt's Bees products are on average 99.6% natural origin. So we are a brand that tries to maximize the use of natural ingredients and bring transparency and traceability to our supply chain. Over the last almost 11 years now, 12 years, I have spent considerable time out in our supply chain visiting, having to look for myself to understand what's happening with the smallholder farmers that we work with all over the world, and have I've visited 25 countries and conducted 115 site visits for our ingredient supply chain. So it's, as you can see, you know, our company is very dedicated to understanding our supply chain, and most importantly, the people in our supply chain and the livelihoods of those people. We are a founding member of the Global Shea Alliance, as Erin Adu mentioned, and I'm again honored to have been on the board of Global Shea Alliance for 5 years. Again, trying to put this into context of a brand and the impacts and importance of beekeeping. You can see here, this is a 2025 impact goal that we have to support the livelihoods of 50,000 people throughout our supply chain. And part of the way that we do that is through a program called Global Supply Chain Investment, where we work to help safeguard access to clean water, support women and children's empowerment, and promote health, safety, and biodiversity. And so, as you can imagine, beekeeping certainly ticks the boxes for many of these aspects of these strategic projects. We also conduct responsible sourcing assessments and third-party audits of manufacturing facilities. So, as I mentioned earlier, in Tanzania and Vietnam are the main origins of the beeswax that we currently source. And through the Global Shea Alliance and USAID Sustainable Shea Initiative, we have also, for the past decade, been investing and partnering with women's groups in Burkina Faso in the shea value chain. This is just a map of some of the ingredients that we source, the natural ingredients that we source around the world. And for those that I have, visited the supply chains, traced the supply chains, and some where we have these global supply chain investment partnerships, including in Ghana and Burkina Faso for shea kernel and shea butters. And we're expanding with the Sheekeeper project to introduce beekeeping activities and expand the capacity of some of the shea processing centers. This gives you a bit of a picture of the traceability efforts for our supply chain. So again, 25 countries, over 115 site visits that we've conducted. Back in 2012, we prioritized the raw materials that we wanted to take this deep dive into our supply chain on. And those were identified by the means of where we thought we could influence and build partnerships, and also those ingredients that have that had some real opportunities for increasing traceability and transparency. So we cover waxes, butters, vegetable oils, essential oils, colorants, and extracts. And so roughly, half of the raw materials that we purchase directly have had site visits. And so we have a firsthand account of practices on the ground, which I really learn a lot from.
J'ai beaucoup appris lors de ces visites de sites-là avec nos partenaires et également avec les personnes qui sont impliquées donc, dans l'approvisionnement. J'ai établi des relations assez fortes et cela nous a permis de créer ces partenariats et l'établissement du dialogue avec donc, nos fournisseurs sur le terrain. Donc, le programme d'investissement dans la chaîne de valeur au niveau mondial, nous avons un engagement de 10 ingrédients, 10 partenariats plutôt de communauté pour les ingrédients d'ici 2020. Et donc, au total, nous voulons avoir 20 ingrédients d'ici 2025.
Thank you. So these programs in
Allô?
our sourcing communities are
Vous
meant
m'entendez?
to develop, mutual priorities between our brand and our suppliers.
Donc, nous avons établi une priorité entre nos, dans le partenariat que nous avons ici, et nous avons eu beaucoup d'opportunités à travers ces partenariats-là. Et nous avons également des contributions en nature. Et nous avons 4 niveaux, 4 domaines dans lesquels nous avons établi ce projet-là: la santé et la sécurité, l'autonomisation des femmes et des jeunes, la biodiversité et l'accès à l'eau potable. Donc, comme vous voyez, ici, il s'agit d'une communauté productrice de cajou, de noix de cajou, de qualité plutôt. Et donc, nous visitons sur le terrain. Nous avons essayé de comprendre comment est-ce qu'ils procèdent, et nous les avons appuyés dans l'amélioration de leurs transactions et dans la vente de leurs produits. Donc, nous avons différents types de ruches dans l'apiculture, comme vous le voyez ici sur l'image, en fonction des endroits.
Oh, which is my favorite tree, in addition to shea. But you see a traditional log hive in Tanzania, and then in Vietnam you can see some of the types of hives that are put out near the coffee, acacia, and rubber trees. These are 2 of our beekeepers, Mushaka and Juju from Tanzania, and another beekeeper from Vietnam. So here you can see a beautiful, huge hive. This hive was about 2 meters long of the wax just naturally forming in that log hive. The photo on the bottom here on the bottom right is actually a woman who's a beekeeper, also in Tanzania. You can see just the different types of wax and hives and beekeeping equipment that are used around the world. And that brings us to shea. So as I mentioned, Burt is a Global Shea Alliance founding member, member of the Sustainability Working Group, and we've been a long partner with Global Shea Alliance and USAID. USAID launched the Sustainable Shea Initiative with Global Shea Alliance several years ago, and it's been an excellent program to facilitate public-private partnerships and increase trade of shea products out of West Africa. Go into the next slide here. So here are some photos from some of our shea sourcing communities in Burkina and, these are Burkina and Ghana. And you can see one of the other activities we've had is with our supplier partners. And I think it's really important to mention this and emphasize this, that Bertbees does not do this alone. We don't do any of this alone. This is all through partnerships and relationships we've built with our suppliers over many years, and their extended teams around the world in sourcing communities. So one of the partnerships that we have had for several years is to seek improvements and efficiencies in the roasting of the shea kernels and the production of the shea butter. We do source butter that is shea butter that is sourced and produced in West Africa, and we also do use shea butter from kernels that are exported and transformed into butter in Europe and distributed from there. And there's an important place in the market for both. The improved stoves here help to reduce the exposure to smoke inhalation, drastically reduce the amount of firewood. And so I think that it was interesting, the earlier presentation from Waterled, that talking about the importance of beekeeping and protection of biodiversity and the forest. And I think this was a foray into that focus for Burt's Bees. got some photos from our Sustainable Shea Initiative projects with our suppliers for increasing the capacity and upgrading equipment of a shea warehouse and processing center outside of Pomeroy. And just some more photos of the people, the women in our suppliers' value chain that we've been working with for many years. So this brings me to our beekeeping initiative, the Sheekeeper. So for about the last 5 years, I've been interested with some other partners to expand beekeeping in West Africa through our shea value chain. So in June of 2021, we entered into a partnership with USAID, West Africa Trade Hub, Partnership for Natural Ingredients, and our Burt's Bees shea and beeswax suppliers. And the intent of the project is to put women at the center of beekeeping. Our project is in Ghana. It's a 3-year partnership with USAID, and we will have 1,200 smallholder beekeepers from the shea value chain that are becoming trained and entering into beekeeping activities. One of the metrics for our project was to engage at least 50% of those beekeepers to be women. Women are not as prominent in the beekeeping activities around the world, I think, as they could be. And so we've had great success in our first year of registrations. We have 72% of the participants are women. So I think we far exceeded our metrics for that KPI already. And here you can see a photo of some of the women in the northern region that have been enrolled into our projects. And I think what's so interesting about this effort is the potential to scale this. There are more than 16 million women throughout West Africa that are part of the shea value chain. And so we are starting with a project for 1,200 people, which is very ambitious in itself to get started. One of the biggest challenges I think that we have faced is just the cost of the equipment and the construction and distribution of the hives. And so I think that is something really to keep in mind as you enter into beekeeping activities. However, once you get started, those hives can be used for up to 10 years. So the initial cost is somewhat significant, but then the longer term cost is much more manageable. So we'll hear more about that. I know that Koster Keunen will be making also a presentation after me about their beekeeping activities, and we'll hear more in the panel. So I just would like to say thank you. It's again an honor to be here, and these are some of the beekeepers that I met many years ago in Tanzania. So I would like to close with a photo with them. Thank you very much.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Shannon, I just have one question. Is it true that everyone on the call is going to get a free Burt's Bees lip balm?
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but maybe the next time I'm in Ghana, we could arrange that.
Oh, it's so nice though. Okay, just think about it. Just think about it. All right, thank you so much for your
maybe next webinar.
Next time. Okay. All right, thank you so much for your presentation, Shannon. For those who just joined, that was Shannon Hess with Burt's Bees. She's the Director of Responsible Sourcing. I forgot how many countries she said she has visited, but I know it was at least more than 20, and just such great work, Shannon. Thank you so much. Okay, so next, Shannon, you can turn off your video. Thank you, madam. We will have Mr. Cecil Wilson joining us. He is the project director for Universal Outreach Foundation, which also has a brand name of honey, Liberia Pure Honey, which, as Mr. Nuhu and Dan with Wabaled shared, is really good honey. It's won all types of awards. We can see if we can get some free honey from them, but probably not. But so we're going to have Cecil come on, and then afterwards, hopefully, we will get to hear from Miss Etta Thompson to talk about how her life has been impacted through farming. So, Cecil, if you are on, please speak up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cesar Wilson from Universal Outreach Foundation, and I'm very happy to be on this webinar talking about introducing farmers to beekeeping from the beehive, from farm to the beehive, win for agribusiness farmers and the environment. And I would like to do a presentation that will inform you more on what Universal Outreach has done so far in Liberia and what we continue to do, so that our partners can be informed and be able to make a decision on how they can move forward with investing into beekeeping to help reduce poverty and promote biodiversity and conservation. So if I can get permission to share my screen. Chas, are you there?
Yes, permission is coming. And if you have any issues, I also have a consultation.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen. Just click on the bottom, there's a green arrow and it says share screen, but you have to have your PowerPoint up first. So just take your time.
Okay. Now, as you can see, Universal Outreach Foundation is involved in a lot of things. Initially, we focused mainly on scholarship, educating children with the hope that they will become better leaders and better citizens and help to change the trajectory of Liberia. But while helping parents, children, we understood that the parents too needed help. And one thing every parent wanted was a job. And the reality being that UOF could not provide job for everyone, we thought it wise to venture into developing business skills that will serve as self-employment for parents so that they could continue supporting their children and their families. So then the idea of beekeeping came in. We started to develop a beekeeping training program that fitted rightly into the needs of most farmers. And that program was welcome and is a very successful one, as you will see from the numbers I will be sharing with you. And then because beekeeping is done mainly in the interior, the coastal communities also had a concern, why are we not also involved with livelihood activities under Universal Outreach Foundation? So then we thought it wise to do a little bit of brainstorming and research, and we came out with the option of developing the coconut and the coconut oil industry along the coast. And that also is a booming business along with the Liberia Pure brand of products. So Universal Outreach is presently working with other business people who are not mentioned here in business development that are not agriculture nor education related, but are all intended to boost the value chain of agri-products and services. So I will be sharing data from the county and the number of beehives that I will also be talking about the honey harvest and the income that goes to farmers every year. And I will be connecting the income to technical services that are rendered to these farmers. So, as you can see, we have counted on the number of beehives, and the colors in green represent counties that are working under conservation projects. So Maryland County, which is the farthest southeast county, is still getting involved learning beekeeping. They started their first beekeeping project under University of Irish in 2021, and they have 60 beehives. They are still learning with a minimum income. Cape Mount also started beekeeping, but we're fortunate to start on a conservation project. Riverside also started beekeeping under conservation. And you will see that River G, Grand Cru, Sando are all conservation hotspots that are doing beekeeping. For Nima County, Nima has shifted from conservation to agribusiness because they have seen the output of their beehives. They have sold honey and gotten very reasonable and exciting income. And therefore, they have shifted from just conservation and environmental protection to real agribusiness producer of honey. They produce up to 80% of the total honey in Liberia. And Bond County is also working in the agribusiness when it comes to beekeeping. Grand Jida, Grand Bassa, and Bapulu are also under the conservation bill. Grand Jida and Bapulu were supported by Arabic. Grand Jida hosts part of, and also the host part of the proposed protector, Grand Bassa, which is still under review. So these counties are all working and have beehives. And the sale of honey farmers have received from beekeeping, the numbers here will show you clearly that there's a huge yearly payout to farmers who produce honey, and that has made the beekeeping sector in Liberia a very attractive one. And from 2011, when we engaged farmers, there was a little honey available, which University of Irish was able to buy to give a guarantee to farmers that if they went on to produce honey, we will definitely buy all of their produce. And in 2012, that commitment was put to test when the farmers produced 600 plus gallons, and they got 12,700. In 2013, the production dropped due to the challenge of the Ebola virus and some environmental challenges that came from chemical waste due to hygienic practice to combat the virus. So in 2015, production was very low. In 2016, when we reinforced our beekeeping program by bringing in more extension workers, technical service providers, we started to see honey production increase up to 2019. And in 2020, production started to drop, and that didn't mean that people were not producing honey. There were two factors affecting the drop in CO2 LP. Now remember, the data here is only capturing honey that was sold to Liberia Pure. So then farmers started to have a lot of honey, and that attracted other value adders to sell to other people, and not only Agribusinesses, so the honey that was bought started to reduce. But then there was still a considerable amount of money that was going out into the hands of the farmers. In 2020, we downsized our technical services to farmers, which also reduced the number of honey gallons we were able to buy. And technical services, as we have learned over the past 10 years, is directly proportional to the performance of the farmers. If you spend more time with them and train them, they will do better and be more confident, and they'll produce more honey. So this shows the years we have worked with communities. And as you will see, NEMA has received the longest technical service, and they are also the highest producer of honey. So when you look at Grangita, which received 1 year of technical service, 1 up to 2 years, the production there attempted to increase, but when we withdrew the technical service, we saw that production dropped and people disconnected from the value chain, which meant that they started to sell in their community and across the border, thereby resulting in little income. So there is a need to always emphasize during the design of the program, always make sure that technical services go along or beyond the length of the project, because that will spell sustainability for a beekeeping intervention. In our training, there is opportunity for every age group to participate in the grow hives. They learn how to build beehives, and they took on beekeeping as a new skill, a new career, a new income generating activities that they could invest in. We also had youth, teenagers who also came on board, and they can also do beekeeping and realize a very unique income from there. Although most of those incomes are one-time incomes that will come in the middle of the year, it is good for our youth because it helps to pay off some of those huge expenses that they'll need to forward their education. The quality of honey that is produced varies based on the geographical location. For those who are in the conservation area, in the high forest, early harvest will bring very, very clean and white honey, which is desirable by some. They consider it to be best for consumption. And then those living in cash crop producing areas, like those in the Sapo lower landscape in Sando County and some part of Grangita, will also produce honey that is red, reflecting the palm nectar that the bees collect to produce honey. And then there will also be people like in Nima who will also produce regular or yellow honey that is valuable also and comes from very rich and mixed nectar sources. But because of the low amount of honey they produce, there is no segregation in extraction. Everything is put together using the value of the good honey that came from rich nectar sources. This picture shows 2 farmers in Temple, Grangita, host community to the Grand Gribble National Park, extracting honey. And that honey was bought immediately by Liberia Pure. There are some challenges I would like to highlight that we encounter, which we can use in our new design if we want to work with beekeepers. most donors are willing to fund they are not willing to fund effective extension programs. They prefer funding inputs and equipment as compared to salaries. So when the farmers get the inputs and equipment, technical services do not go a long way to sustain the project. So that is something that undermines our output. Also, lack of access to market after technical engagement. Farmers start to sell locally, and that brings in slow income as compared to selling to Liberia Pure that will give them an instant and huge income that they can use to run needed projects. There's also a lack of community-based extension workers. Usually, Universal Outreach will send technicians to the community to work. And when the project ends, those technicians can no longer afford to go back there. A design we put in place was to get people in the community trained to the level of our technicians so that they could provide services when these engagements end. And workers can only afford to work within their community because of the distances between the towns. And then communities who do not have people who were trained will not benefit from technical services that are based within other communities. So in future designs, we would like to see each community having a community-based extension worker that will take over from the UOF extension worker when the project ends. Specifically, challenges for WABIC that we experience, competing interests. So when you engage communities under conservation, they are skeptical to work with you. But during that time of skepticism is when the training goes on. So most of them come to the training with divided attention. And by the time they get to realize what beekeeping can do for them as a livelihood source and a source of income, they have forgotten what the training was all about, and they start to request for another training. That undermines the sustainability of the project because they cannot practice what they were taught because they were not paying attention when the training was going on. That brings us also to opportunities that we can harness to better support conservation projects in terms of livelihood and working with communities that host protected areas. And we always look at the transitioning population. For the past 4 years, we realized that huge livelihood potential lies within the transitioning population, like the hunters. These are people who were exploiting the forest, and when they got involved in beekeeping and they learned new behavior and realized that they can also get good income from raising bees, they are held at a point of confusion as to whether to leave the hunting and get involved in beekeeping. But then from the beginning, the inputs or equipment that is given to them is not enough to produce a reasonable income to replace the hunting. So then they are still there. We have an opportunity of increasing the inputs that were given to them so that they can get more from the production of honey, and that will trigger withdrawal from hunting. The next group is the bush meat traders. And these are females that move from markets to the forest to collect bush meat. And we have identified them to be a good middleman for the transporting of honey, if we can get them involved into the honey value chain and replace their bush meat with honey collected from these hunters and farmers in these protected areas. And with that new business scale, which is also a productive one, we will be able to see more honey moving towards the market which means that farmers will be able to get more money for their honey when they produce them. Another group is the miners, those who do mining in conservation areas. They get a minimum income from mining, and they are also starting to get involved into beekeeping, but due to the low inputs or beehive that are giving them, it doesn't equate to an income that will allow them to start exploiting protected areas. So if we can also increase inputs to these people, that will trickle withdrawal from this labor-intensive mining that usually gives them little return and also damages the forest, and they will help them to focus on beekeeping, and the new income will help them also to service those needs that they were previously using the mining to service. And from the universal outreach perspective, we think that by taking these learnings into the next phase of WABIC or WABIC-led, we are going to have triple the result we had during the first phase. So I want to thank you for the time, and hope our recommendation. Hello?
Hi, Cecil. Thank you so much for that great presentation. For those on the call, I just wanted to note that Cecil is actually in the middle of a beekeeping conference in a forest in Liberia. Is that correct?
Yes. We have farmers, beekeepers from all the counties.
Yeah, you're tuning in from the forest, and your internet is just as good as ours. It's impressive. Could you share a little bit about just the beekeeping conference
and
we at right now?
Yeah, so
you can turn off your video though.
Community volunteers. It's intended to bring community volunteers from across Liberia together for learning and to be able to gain exposure. For example, beekeepers that have been working in the Crown Grable National Park or the Grable Crown National Park have never met one another for the past 2 to 3 years. So this conference has brought leaders from the Crown Grable National Park together so that they can see and hear from one another what they are doing in their communities. It's also going to allow them to have an election for county leadership. We want each county to have a representative when it comes to beekeeping, because that is a major trigger to universal outreach constructing honey buying centers. The honey buying centers are points that will reduce the distance farmers transport their honey from their beehive or their community to the market. And universal outreach can pick it up from there. So when the county leadership are established and responsible, we can move forward with the idea of constructing regional honey houses for the collection and collective sale of bee products. So we are here for 3 days, working with farmers from across Liberia, learning from one another, and making plans for the effective promotion of beekeeping in Liberia.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Cecil. So I know that you're surrounded by farmers and you're surrounded by beekeepers, and we're lucky enough for you to be able to introduce one of your beekeepers, Queen Bee herself. Before you do, though, I really want to show this short video that you guys have some nice videos that you all have put together about a woman named Miss Etta Thompson. So just give me a second, and it's only a minute, and I would like to share that.
My name is Etta Thompson. I am a beekeeper. I see myself as a queen bee. People work for me. The queen bee have more egg. The queen bee is the one that producing in a hive. I love to train young women. I tell them beekeeping is a patient. You will not depend on men. You're able to do your own setting. I do beekeeping. I send my children to school. I'm independent on my own. I'm not depending on men. So I want for women to follow me to join beekeeping.
Right. Thank you again for Cecil for letting us see your video. Oh, there's Miss Etcha. How are you, Madame?
Okay.
Okay. So we saw your video. We know you're the queen bee. We know you're all that. I would like if you could just share a little bit for those who are on the call who might be interested in supporting beekeeping initiatives. Why do you think more beekeeping initiatives should be supported? How does it help women and men like yourself?
For me, I love to see women in beekeeping. When women doing beekeeping, your life will improve. Women doing beekeeping, there will not be the advantage in your life. You are able to fight for yourself, to sustain yourself. So I love to see women doing beekeeping for themselves, because it's through beekeeping they were able to make their life improve. So I love to see women in beekeeping.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for letting us share your video. Okay, you guys have a good day. Thank you again, Cecil.
Okay.
So now we will have our third presentation. Mr. Silva Kata. I've been having my fellow French-speaking colleague try to help me with this name all day, and I still can't get it. So he will pronounce his name correctly. We have Silva Kata with Koster Keunen, which is funded by Prosper Africa on the line. And then he is also with his colleague, Mr. Joseph Funt, with the Partnership for Natural Ingredients. And together they will be talking about the Koster Keunen project in West Africa. It is in multiple countries in West Africa. It's one of, I don't want to say one of the Trade Hub's most important projects, but it's a really cool project. And we're happy to support it through USAID and through Prosper Africa. So Sylvain, whenever you're ready, please get on and say your name correctly.
You mentioned already correctly. My name is Sylvain Catin. Yes, I'm in charge of Koster Keunen West Africa, located in Togo. And we are organizing a supply chain through West Africa for beekeeping, because we are the company collecting the beeswax, okay, treating the beeswax, okay, to make some ingredient for the cosmetic, especially with two manufacturers, one located in the US, in the Connecticut, and one in Netherlands, in Bladel, okay? Our job from West Africa is to organize the supply chain, okay, and to be sure we'll get, let's say, the raw material in adequation in terms of quality, traceability, and engagement, okay, to match the international market. But I'm with also Joe. Okay, Joe, if you can say also, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Funt, and I'm a partnership for natural ingredients. And so I'm very pleased to be presenting today with Sylvain. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up our presentation. So there we go. So we should have it here.
Yeah, it's okay.
Great. Yeah. So today we are going to touch a little bit about Koster Keunen, the company, and where we stand as far as our startup in West Africa and our current activities. We're going to touch a bit about beekeeping and the benefits of beekeeping. We'll discuss our Trade Hub project that Chaz has mentioned, and yeah, and then we'll discuss sort of where we are in terms of implementation and the sort of successes and challenges that we've had so far. And then we'll discuss further opportunities for the participants to partner with us. And I'll be, Sylvain will be discussing first, and he'll be presenting first, and then I'll follow up with some ideas for new partnerships. So Sylvain, back to you for
Okay.
first slide here on beekeeping in West Africa.
All right. Yes. Okay. Just to come back. Okay. Regarding the beekeeping in West Africa. Okay. As already ETA, the beekeeping, let's say the bee women just spoke before. Okay, it's a profitable activity. Okay, for farmer. Okay, because they can generate additional income. Okay, from the beekeeping activity to sell the honey and also the wax and also some other product coming from the hives. Okay, it can be propolis also, and also it will also increase the productivity and the yield of your crop. If you are, let's say, some mango plantation, cashew plantation, okay, and also some shea, because today we are speaking also with the GSA. Okay, it will increase definitely your production of shea nuts. This pollination service, okay, it's around, let's say, 2 to 3 kilometers around the beehives. Okay. Right now, the beekeeping, let's say, was still traditional in West Africa. Okay, and we are definitely at the moment, okay, to move this traditional beekeeping to, let's say, modern and professional beekeeping. Okay, with a lot of investment from USAID and from some other donors in West Africa, okay? And you can see a real dynamic, okay, also from all the states to promote the beekeeping, okay? Because it's linked also with preservation, okay? But it was mentioned before by some other presentation, okay? It will protect the biodiversity, it will generate some income in rural zone, okay? It will also increase the pollination, and it can also make some additional value from the wax and the honey. Okay. Yeah. So right now for Koster Keunen West Africa, we are working in 7 different countries, and we have 3 different supply chains. Let's say the basic one is a conventional. We have a sustainable supply chain where we have a full traceability from the hives, beekeeper, and until the final product, with some long-term commitment. Also, we guarantee a price. We are making also some training to improve the quality, and we are able to pay a bonus linked with the quality. And with the Red Shrub and the USAID, we are developing this huge program on the organic supply chain. And right now we are implementing 36,000 beehives all around West Africa in organic zone, organic area, already certified. Yeah, the key point, okay, is to improve, let's say, the strongness of the cooperative, okay, with a better organization, with a better knowledge, okay. And right now we have around 10,000 beekeepers has already followed training, okay. We secure the market, okay, for the bee wax, okay. And we are also making some training to improve the quality. And based on the quality improvement, we are able to pay some incentive, as I mentioned before. Okay. Definitely, okay, we are able to secure through the traceability, through the quality, higher and secure income for the beekeeper. The goal of this project with USAID, okay, is to professionalize the beekeeping, okay, and also to generate, okay, additional income for the farmer. Definitely, we have a lot of program of training, okay, done through Koster Keunen, West Africa, okay, with my colleague, okay, Nasser, Mark, Achu, okay, in the field, okay, making some training, okay, about the good practice, the way to manage and to monitor the hives, the way to harvest, the way to make the separation between the honey and the wax, okay. And also we are making all this development in the organic zone, okay. And also this beekeeping is also a way to tackle the food security with increasing the production about the crop, okay, from the shea, from the cashew, from the mango, you can through banana, for example, but also with this additional production of honey, also it's also a way to bring some good ingredient, okay, to nutrition for the local population. Just to give you some achievement and date on this program, right now we have already installed and purchased 16,210 beehives. The program, as I mentioned, is 3 years, and to reach 36,000 hives. We have already trained around 4,400 participants, okay, and we generate, okay, new beekeeper, okay. It was people who was not doing beekeeping in the past, or only 1 or 2, but now it's more of 932 beekeeper has already trained, okay, and engaged in this supply chain. We are focusing, okay, for the young people, new generation, okay, of a beekeeper, okay, and is around half percent of our new beekeeper as youth, and for the women is 27%. Is increasing every day, okay, but as it was mentioned before, I think it's Shannon mentioned that, okay, the beekeeping was not done traditionally by women, okay, but step by step with all the engagement from the weight club, from our partner, okay, we are able to move this ratio up. All right. Right now, our implementation of this program is in some protected forests, especially in Mali, in Burkina, also in Nigeria, in Togo, in Benin. Okay, we are working also in some shea parkland. Okay, in Benin, in Burkina also, and also for some mango plantation and a lot of cashew. Okay, where we are increasing, let's say, the production of mango and the cashew. Okay, right now in terms of stakeholders, okay, we have 21 partners impacted by this program. Yeah, definitely we face some challenge. Okay, this is normal. Okay, it was not planned to get the COVID-19 during this program, let's say during this implementation, and this makes us some problem to be on the field. But definitely, with, let's say, the effort from our team, the effort also from our partner, and also we're trying to find some other solution, like some video, okay, for training and everything. But definitely, we fight this challenge. But also we get some challenge in terms of security aspect, especially in Burkina, Mali, and Nigeria, due to this situation of terrorism. This is also a huge challenge. And also we face some challenge about climate change. What does it mean, okay, for the beekeeping season? For example, time to time, let's say the flower can come late or early, okay, and this, okay, can affect also the pollination, let's say the forage, okay, the food available for the bees, okay, and let's say the climate change is also the periodicity and let's say the prediction to know when the rain will be here. It's a little bit different. Another point that can be also a challenge, okay, is the use of pesticide, especially in the cotton region, okay. For example, in Mali and Burkina, okay, where we have a lot of cotton, and also in Benin, but we are not in this area exactly, because for pesticide use for this crop is a 7 treatment during the year. Okay. Another challenge also, but it was known at the beginning, okay, is the lack of techniques in the value chain, and also, as I mentioned before, the gender stereotype in the beekeeping. But we are able to match and to find some solution on all these challenges step by step. Okay, and is what is interesting this project is the communication with also the wet truck, with our partner in the field, that we are able to face and to find a solution on this massive challenge. Yeah, in terms of increasing the training capacity, okay, as I mentioned, okay, we train more of around 7,000 farmers right now, okay, and we connect them to the market, okay, for the organic supply chain, but also we train them in the conventional and also the sustainable supply chain. We have some production, okay, of additional honey, beeswax, shea, cashew, and mango for this participant, okay. And definitely we are increasing the smallholder sales of beeswax and honey for our company. And also we increase and we generate additional export to the US, especially, and EU, definitely. Okay, Eta mentioned already the beekeeping for her, what is the impact. We have also another lady, okay, is Weba Agoro, all right. And Koster Keunen team, okay, trained her, all right. She was already doing some beekeeping with, let's say, 8 hives, okay, that she bought themselves, okay. And she was only harvesting 31 kg of honey and 5 kg of beeswax. And due to the training also and the good practice, the way to treat, the way to clean, the way to make the separation between the honey and the wax, she has already increased the production of from these 8 hives to 100 kg of honey and 10 kg of beeswax. And also we paid last year a bonus on the quality, because before it was a little bit brown and smoky wax. And now, okay, she's able to produce the top level wax, okay, is yellow like that, okay. And she's ready to invest, okay, based on the income she's generating step by step, okay. She's ready to invest again more on this hives possibility. Our activity, okay, is to secure, let's say, this byproduct, the beeswax, and also to make the market linkage with some other company, okay, for the honey, okay, for the local market, but also for the international market. And also what you can see is, let's say, in the last 5 years, a lot of countries has already get the approval and the agreement to be able to export the honey in Europe. This can open also some market, okay. It will start from Benin, Ghana, Burkina, we did it 5 years ago. Togo get it last year. Right now, we have also Mali working on that. But let's say the beekeeping is a huge impact for the local population, for the environment, okay, for the food safety aspect, okay, and can generate good income, okay, due to the increase of pollination, increase about the quantity of shea, cashew, mango, and other crop that it will be produced, and also from the bee wax, and also for the honey. Joe.
Great. Thank you, Sylvain. So it's been a real pleasure to work with the Koster Keunen team in developing this partnership with Trade Hub, and it's the Trade Hub Grant Fund really presented a unique opportunity for us because it allowed Koster Keunen to set the strategy and develop a project that meets the export requirements and really aligns with our needs in terms of production of wax in the field, the processing, and the export components. And then we're able to work with those 21 local partners in a way that made the most sense for us and create our own partnerships that aligned with our regional strategy in West Africa. So the Trade Up Grant Fund made a lot of sense to us, and there were a lot of advantages in getting this project up and running. And since we first started working together about 2 years ago to design the project, and we're about 1 year in now on the implementation, and our business has grown in terms of the increased demand for wax from U.S. and European markets, and specifically around the sustainable, traceable product that we produce. And so we are now looking for additional partnerships beyond the scope of our Trade Hub grant, and we're looking specifically to train and equip 5,000 additional beekeepers in the region. And so, as Sylvain was mentioning, we have a lot of potential partners that could make sense for this expansion. Development projects such as the Trade Hub Grant Fund make a lot of sense for us. Nonprofit organizations also that are working independently in the region, and we're really interested also in working with companies in the cashew, shea, and mango sectors. This is because sort of create this win-win situation where we're able to harvest the wax and for export, but also companies benefit from the pollination service in cashew, shea, and mango. So that's always where there's more shared value amongst our partners. That always creates sort of better opportunity for partnership. So there's a lot of benefits in partnering with Koster Keunen, and we've discussed some of those today. And so when we're thinking about development projects, it can align quite nicely with things like projects that focus on biodiversity, income from smallholders, projects that are focusing on food security, not just because of the increased yield of crops, but also because the income that you achieve from the sale comes at a time in the season, in the harvest season, that is quite important for farmers, and where income is very highly valued. So we, when partnering it with us, and we sort of bring a lot of the technical approaches for the training, for certifications, for equipment, and even things like processing. And so when we work with our partners to design a development project for export, we have a lot of this information, even things like the design of the beehive and specific types of wax, honey wax separation equipment. We help local partners to develop those kind of approaches. So I mentioned before about the different sort of benefits of partnering with us and the potential alignment with development projects. And I think one of the big benefits is this leveraged contribution, and working with a company like ours, we really bring a lot of resources to the table to undertake these projects and to purchase and export the wax. And then finally, all of the return on the investment is pretty quick. I think the equipment and the training of the beekeepers is relatively expensive and really necessitates partnership in that regard. But we also see the return on that investment coming pretty quickly, as has been mentioned by the different presenters today. And finally, by working with us, really it ensures the sustainability of the results of the project, because all of the capacity building and the farmers are being trained within our supply chain. And so just by the very nature of our partnership, those commercial transactions will continue beyond the scope of the project. And this is what we expect with a Trade Hub project, and as well as the additional partnerships we have ongoing in the region. So, there we go. So a couple of things to think about in working with us, and we really want to work with partners as early as possible in the planning of the project, and this is because of we want to leverage our expertise in the project design. And so everything from the types of trainings that are provided to farmers, the types of equipment that are provided, even things like the location of the project, are all very important for us. And this is because we want to ensure that the products that are developed meet certain quality specifications, the quantities produced, and the scale of the project is very important to us. We need to be working at a certain scale for the project to make sense for us. And even that, we're trying to achieve certain economies of scale by even having, by identifying locations that are advantageous for our supply chain. So the earliest you can engage us is really beneficial, because we can provide you feedback on all of these things, and it's good for us to have a formal role in the project, and from start to finish, for all of those reasons. And I think some of the challenges that we see in partnership on the beekeeping aspect is that sometimes beekeeping is thought of as a hobby, and it's just, you know, a 1 hive or 2 hive activity. And we really, you know, for us to work with in a professional way and in a way that is at appropriate scale, we want to really we want to do that in such a way that makes sense for the expansion of our business. And then finally, and this was an issue oftentimes in my work with Global Shea, where we would visit different shea producing communities, and they had people would be participating in types of development projects, and they had shea butter to sell. And oftentimes people approach us after the project is complete with a different type of product. And that presents a real challenge because oftentimes the products don't meet, you know, the quality specifications, or they're not at the right sort of scale, or it's in the wrong location. So we really encourage you to contact us as early as possible and to include us from the very beginning of the design of the project. So we look forward to hearing from some of the participants today on partnership opportunities. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to stop my screen share and turn it back over to you, Jess.
Right, thank you, Joe, for that great presentation. Where are you tuning in from? It looks cold.
I am in. I'm in. Sorry, getting calls coming in. I am in Appalachia, so it's in. We're about 3 hours west of Washington, D.C. It's in the mountains on a lake in Maryland. So it's very pretty here. Yeah, but it's this time of year is getting to be kind of like cold and rainy, and all the snow is gone. So it's not the skiing is done, Chaz. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing you in West Africa, where it's always nice weather. All right.
Absolutely, I miss it.
Okay.
Excited to get back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sylvain and Joe, for that presentation. We are nearing the end. There have been some really good questions coming in from participants in the chat box. And so if Joe and Sylvain and Shannon and Cecil, if you're able to right now, it'd be great if you could turn on your videos, and then we'll just have, we'll probably keep the Q&A to 10 minutes. And then we will have closing remarks by Ms. Bettina Watang, Regional Senior Communications Specialist for the USA West Africa Trade Hub, where she used to be an anchor. So anything she says is just like, wow. And I'm looking forward to hearing her closing remarks. So at this time, we will go ahead and have a Q&A. I'm going to turn off my video so I can concentrate on asking you questions. And Fatima, our lovely comm specialist, has been in the French room taking questions. And so we'll start with the questions from the people in the French room first, after I ask some initial ones. Just give me a second.
Perhaps while Chaz is preparing the questions, I can at least answer one question that came through during the chat that I thought was an excellent question about how to engage women in beekeeping. And so from my experience going into our Sheekeeper project, you know, we initially had our criteria for women to be included would be would be to have a minimum of 50% women in the project, which, to be very transparent, we felt was ambitious already because of the strong male dominance in beekeeping around the world. And so the way we were able to do that is by working with women in the shea value chain. The women are already organized into groups for collection of shea kernels and production of butter. And so it was actually a woman who was from the shea women's group was the one who she selected her beekeeping partner. She can select a partner who is another woman or another man, maybe her husband or another family member. And what was really interesting is that many of the women chose other women to be their beekeeping partners, because we have partners, 2 beekeepers, as in the way we've designed the project. So I think it's a very good question to ask about how to engage more women. And so by working through groups of women that are already established in the shea value chain, that is one way you may be able to incorporate more women. And Koster Keunen can probably talk about how they've done that with other value chains as well.
Right. Shannon, thank you so much for picking that up. I was introducing the panel, but I was just doing it for my own self and my colleague. I was muted. So thank you. So thank you for jumping in with the question. I just wanted to go ahead and just reintroduce, because there are some people who are new on the call. Again, we have Shannon Hess with Burt's Bees, Joseph Funt with Partnership for Natural Ingredients, Cecil with the Universal Outreach Foundation, and Sylvan Cotton with Koster Keunen. And Nuhu Ndam is also on the line. He gave a really good presentation earlier on behalf of the West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change program. People were able to type in questions, as you saw, into the chat box, and we're going to let our French-speaking webinar attendants go first. There are some questions that already came in, and so I would like to go ahead and just take some time asking each of you some of them. There's been Cecil, you guys can take yourself off mute if you want to. There's been a lot of questions that it might seem silly, but I had the same question about regarding the safety of beekeeping. The idea that bees sting, bees chase you. You see it in movies. How do you convince people who might be a little bit scared that, you know, beekeeping is a livelihood activity that you're not going to get hurt from, Cecil? And then Shannon or Joe or Sylvan, you can piggyback on anything that Cecil says. Cecil, you'll take yourself off of mute.
Yeah, for the safety aspect, what we can say, okay, is through our program also we are able to provide some equipment, safety equipment, boots, clothes, gloves also, just to make security. And also there's some good practice in terms of smoking aspect, okay, when you arrive near the ice. It's based on the training, okay. Definitely it's training and also equipment that we are able to provide, and also to adjust based on the situation. Just for you to know, I have one colleague, before he was putting his whole suit, and I saw this week some picture, he's keeping only the top now, okay, and I hope, let's say in 2 or 3 months he will remove everything.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. You mentioned training, and this, if Nuhu and Cecil, if you could answer this, how long does it typically take? I know that, you know, people's skill sets and their prior knowledge is different, but typically take for someone who has never heard of beekeeping to pick up beekeeping and to learn with help? Like how many weeks, how many months does it typically take?
So can I go?
Yes, please. Yes, let's let Nuhu and then Cecil.
Okay. I will say that when you get to the communities and bring an idea, people are divided, as Wilson said earlier. Those who are involved in forest destruction are often very skeptical. They feel that the project is targeting them, is against them. So they will be reluctant to join. And very often you have to target those who are willing to accept the project. You work with those people and gradually they will see the benefit. When we went to Grebo Crown and engaging farmers, some were very against, and those who accepted us and started working with us realized that it was not that negative. By the time they are calling you to come back to their community and train them, maybe you have already set up and select your community based on your budget and your time, and there is no time for them to come. So there have been communities who have been begging to come back and train them, and you are saying, oh, okay, we will get the trainer from this community to come to you because there's no money. So the answer to that is that it depends. In some community, you start working with them, 2 months, 2 weeks, or 3 months later, they realize that we are not that negative about the forest. We are concentrated more about their livelihood and their concern. So they tend to come and listen. Some villages will join, others will join later. There have been people who even accepted, work with us, and abandon the hive. And after some point, they realize that, oh, the third year is producing, and it will be producing every year from now. They are coming back to the community and say, we want to be part of this. And also, when we call people farmers, in a community, they all are farmers. But inside this group of farmers, they are bush meat seller, for example, and these are women. And their activity, when you are talking about conservation, they feel that you are coming to stop their activities. But when you propose some alternative like beekeeping, and they start to see money coming from it, then they can say, oh, we have a role here. Maybe we become a middleman, coordinating thing, and then passing it to the market. So I will stop there.
Thank you. Okay. Cecil, you're running beekeeping initiatives right now. Is there, though, like an average length of time that you say it takes to go from zero beekeeping experience to now I'm a bona fide real beekeeper, Cecil?
So a beekeeping cycle will go for 12 months. If the person can start from June, you need 12 months to go through all of the cycles of beekeeping. And what we have learned from our experience the past 3 years, it is different in the conservation areas, which is more forested communities that need more than 1 year. Because the farmer might not be able to populate all of his beehives in his first year, and he will do so in his second year. So if you count just 1 year, there will be like 60% of the farmers who will miss out on colonization and managing hives and going to experience harvest and sale of honey. So you need to go more than 2 years to be able to include everybody in the learning of installation, colonization, management, harvest, and sale of honey. So basically 1 to 3 years will be good for a mix of a natural, vegetative, cash crop area to conservation communities.
Thank you, Cecil. Another question regarding just farmers in general. So we were excited to partner with Global Shea Alliance because we know that shea crops benefit from bee pollination, just like all other crops. But are there certain crops, are there certain types of farmers that are like, it makes more sense to engage with beekeeping? I'm asking the whole panel this. So for example, will a shea farmer be just as likely to be successful with beekeeping? Does it make as much sense as someone who is farming cashews or even rice? Like, does it matter the type of farmer?
So I'll go for that. First, when reflecting on conservation, it's better to go with trees that provide reforestation, afforestation, as cashew, palm, rubber, coffee. And those are crops that contribute to afforestation, but equally contribute to honey production. So then you are restoring land that have been degraded, at the same time creating nectar sources for your bees. So we always encourage our farmers to go palm, cashew, coffee, and other crops. We have not had experience working with shea in Liberia, therefore I cannot comment on it, but we focus on cash crop that will restore the land and produce nectar for the bees to produce honey.
Yeah, what I can add at this point. Okay, Shannon, you want to speak also? Okay. What is important, it's also the biodiversity. Let's say monocrop, it can be a problem, okay, because the bees need to get a forage, okay, flower, okay, during all the year, okay. And if you are only monocrop, let's say only a cashew, okay, it can be a problem because the flower is not all around the year, okay. You need to have, let's say, some other tree or other herbs, okay, making some flower, okay, to be sure, let's say, the bees can eat food during all the year. And in the other part, okay, for example, if you have a cashew plantation or mango plantation, okay, it's important, okay, that you are close to a forest or your neighbor doing another crop and everything. Let's say is a biodiversity, but in the origin wording aspect, okay, the different diversity of trees and forage, and also is very important, okay, you need to be sure your bees can have access to water, okay, because they need to drink, okay, to produce the honey. The honey is around 20% of water, and to produce that, okay, the hives need to have access of water, okay. The diversity of a tree and the forage plus water is a key point.
If I could also add to that, I think other considerations are the use of inputs or pesticides, herbicides on crops. So as Sylvain mentioned in his presentation, the bees are going in a 2 to 3 kilometer radius around the hive. So I think very importantly is to understand what is in that radius that could harm the bees for other, not specifically about the crops, but what you're putting onto the crops and the other chemicals that might be, the bees may be exposed to while they're foraging in that radius around the hive. And then another learning from our Beekeeper project is that sometimes the cattle will knock over the hives. So also to try to have some protection around the hives if they are on the ground, and to work within your local community to ensure the cattle don't go to the hives or eat the honey, etc. So that's less about which crops, but more about where to place your hives and to think about the surrounding areas for the success of your beekeeping.
Thank you so much, Shannon. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and open the questions up to those who provided them in the chat box. Fatima, who has been kind of moderating our French room, if you are able to just directly ask our presenters, Shannon, Sylvain, Cecil, and Joe, and knew who the questions, that would be great.
Okay, so we have a question from Cameron, SOS Forests, who said that we are a forest conservation NGO in Côte d'Ivoire, and beekeeping is one of our micro projects with the community around Azagni National Park. How can we collaborate with Wabilet and Burt bees to support the marketing of this modern beekeeping production?
Oh, okay, that's a question regarding Wabilet and Burt's bees. So I know, and Stephen may pop on some from Wabilet, that Wabilet put out a call for applications and grant proposals, and they're very interested in conservation efforts, as the West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project kind of notes. The Trade Hub, we're almost finished awarding our grant money. So, but you can feel free. I think you should have had, I emailed everyone. You can feel free to ask any direct questions about partnerships, and we will definitely answer you. Fatima, we'll go ahead and take turns. Let me just ask one that Nana had been taking down. Several presenters have mentioned initial costs, initial investment costs as a barrier to expanding beekeeping and scalability without the support of donor-funded subsidy. She wants to know what kind of work is going on to reduce those initial costs, or if there can be anything done to reduce the initial costs for investing in beekeeping. Shannon and perhaps Silva and Joe, is there anything that companies or organizations are working on to reduce the cost for initially starting beekeeping, like producing cheaper hives, doing it locally?
Yeah, I mean, I think the partnership with USAID is an excellent example of that in practice. One of the things that we have worked on through our Sheekeeper project is to have the hives locally constructed in the surrounding communities rather than importing from another country. In our activities in beekeeping in Tanzania, we are also working with tailors in the local villages to sew the beekeeping suits. Some of the equipment for beekeeping is less available in certain countries and does need to be imported. So I think, as much as we can keep the activities in the local communities, that benefits the others in the community as well. And being able to scale to manufacture more hives reduces the cost per individual hive. But nonetheless, it is still, at least in my experience, the biggest cost has been for the hive construction, and then also getting those hives out into the communities. One thing that we've done through our project is have the carpenters prepare the materials for the hives, but then the hives are assembled in the local villages so that you don't have to transport already assembled hives. It's less cost for the transport and more efficient to actually assemble the hives in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, just I can add also, investment on the ice is one point. Okay, definitely, if it's done locally, you will, let's say, also reduce the price. But in one investment, you need to think return on investment. Okay, you can produce 20 eyes, but if it's not the right dimension, if it's not the right size, if it's not well installed in the right place at the right time, all of that, you don't know the way to monitor also the eyes. Okay, your return on investment will be nil. Okay, to make an investment, you need to know, okay, what you will do with, okay, to be sure you will get back the money from your investment. And is why, okay, for us as Koster Keunen and the PNI, okay, we are ready to see, as we mentioned, okay, if you have any project, okay, by which way we can collaborate, okay. And I hope, let's say, USAID Wet Shrub will have, let's say, a phase 2 for future to do some other project in some other area. And also, you can start smaller, okay, with, let's say, 5 to 10 eyes, okay, as investment, okay, and step by step, due to the income that you will generate, okay, you can reinvest your money. Is exactly what our lady Weiba, she's doing, okay. She has 8 and she's reinvesting step by step, and we have a couple of lot of experience or story from some beekeepers. Start with some eyes, okay, learn and everything, but you need to be linked, is very important, okay. One beekeeper alone, okay, is difficult. You need to be linked with an association, with a cooperative, okay, to be able for us also to have access to some volume and to train different and many beekeepers at the same time. For us to go to see one beekeeper with 2 eyes is not making any sense, but to see and to go to see one cooperative with already 20 beekeepers is completely different and is another dynamic, okay, that we can support and we can see. Okay, definitely we are able to help and to support and to see by which way we can collaborate to develop this suppression together.
And just to add to Sylvain and Shannon, I think the cost is high for the introduction of beekeeping. It's expensive, and the hives is expensive, and the equipment, the processing equipment, and the suits, and so it really does require partnership and collaboration for that initial beekeeping. So the more people we can get to the table and have this kind of cost share of USAID plus our contributions, and even some more partners such as nonprofits or other companies that can benefit from the pollination service. It's very good to try to share this cost with the farmer to get it going. But then, as Sylvain is mentioning, once the activities are being implemented, the return on investment is high. And we fully expect the farmer then to continue to invest once that cash is flowing into more hives, and to be fully sustainable once that initial investment is made upfront.
Joe, thank you so much for adding that. I want to ask, I think it's probably for Shannon and Silva. There's been a lot of questions regarding, okay, we know you can sell honey, you can sell beeswax. Do the markets for these companies, do the markets for honey and beeswax differ? Like, is one more profitable than the other? And if so, how do they differ?
Maybe
Go
I'll
ahead,
start
Shannon.
until then.
Yes, please.
So then can build, because we both have discussed this amongst beekeeping circles for some time. So as I mentioned in my presentation, we primarily use beeswax. Our company was founded by a beekeeper. We are most known for our lip balms, which have a very high content of beeswax. So we have a significantly higher demand for beeswax than honey. for our brand. There's many applications for beeswax in cosmetic products and other sectors, but also the volume of honey that's produced from one hive is far greater than the amount of beeswax. There are also, I guess one point to mention about the market on beeswax is that examples like Koster Keunen as a commercial partner and export company for beeswax from Africa is essential to these partnerships, because we want to have a commercial outlet for the wax. We will not do good by these local communities that enter into beekeeping if there's no market for the products that are produced from the hives. So I think that's very important to have those market linkages for beekeepers with suppliers that have access to the food and cosmetic industries for these products. And on honey, there are some, honey can have a higher microbiological count than some other ingredients. And so there are some limitations for using honey in cosmetic products because of the higher micro profile. It is still possible, but that's one of the reasons why there's less of a demand in some cosmetic markets for honey. But it is an ingredient we use in the cosmetic industry. There are also very rigorous regulations for export of honey and import of honey into Europe and North America. So I think the regulatory burden for honey, because it is often an ingestible product, is different than that of beeswax. But please, so then I think you'll have more to share too.
Yeah, you already said a lot. Huh? No, definitely, Koster Keunen West Africa, we can secure the volume for the beeswax, okay, based on our quality recommendation and also the traceability and everything. Okay, for beeswax is okay. And for the honey is also linked with the quality, okay? And based on the quality, okay, we are able, as Koster Keunen, to link you, okay, with some final customer, okay, in Europe, in US, definitely. And don't forget that also the local market is huge, okay? The demand for quality product in West Africa and Nigeria, for example, okay, is good, okay? But you need to work on the quality is a key point, and is also linked with what Joe mentioned before, okay? It's only when you can have, let's say, this support, okay, this partnership with some fund, with us, okay, that you will be able to do the right quality for the beeswax, okay, that is interesting for Koster Keunen, but also for the honey. And also another point, okay, it's to make also, let's say, the lobby locally with your health minister, with all the possibility that you have, okay, because as we know, okay, the honey is a very good product, okay, for health, okay, in terms of glycemic level, okay, and it can be switched, okay, from this refined white sugar, okay, to this beautiful product that is the honey, natural ingredient, okay. For example, you can take some honey with some garlic, with some lemon, okay. It can improve, let's say, your immune system. There are a lot of possibility, okay, to promote also locally, okay, the honey for the local population, or also to, let's say, market your honey to reach, let's say, the city, because right now you have a lot of supermarket, okay. You need also to make, let's say, the step, okay, in terms of quality to get the market in your local country, definitely.
Right. Thank you so much, Zilva. I'm gonna have one question for Cecil, and then Fatima, if you have additional questions, we'll ask that, and then we're gonna go ahead and close. Cecil, there's been a couple of questions regarding. So you have a beekeeping conference going on right now, with I'm guessing dozens of beekeepers. How do you work? What does UOF do to ensure that, yes, these farmers may be producing honey or beeswax, but there's an actual market? Like, is Liberia Pure Honey able to actually buy all the honey from these beekeepers? And if not, what kinds of things are set up to ensure that their honey and or their beeswax gets to market and is not wasted?
Okay, Liberia Pure Honey has the capacity to buy all of the honey that Liberia produces so far. What is lacking is the network that brings the honey from the farmer to Liberia Pure. And it is the intermediary or the community-based extension worker. And that role is what holds the key to continuation of the sustainability of the project. When the community-based extension worker leaves his role, the value chain is disconnected and the farmers are left with their product. If the community-based extension worker is active, the honey flows from the beehive to the farmer, to the community-based extension worker, to Liberia Pure. So this conference, as I mentioned earlier, is intended to strengthen that value chain so that the actors can remain engaged with the farmers in Liberia Pure, so that no honey will remain in the community and get stolen or get contaminated or get left behind because there was no one to collect it and move it to the next level. So for the money, Liberia Pure has committed a lot of cash towards buying additional honey that's produced annually, but the actors who contribute to the movement of honey from the beehive to the farmer to the buying centers and to Liberia Pure are active, and they remain engaged and committed to playing their role. And that's something we are promoting at the convention.
Okay, thank you, Cecil, for answering that question so thoroughly, and good luck with the rest of your beekeeper conference. Fatima, I'll leave the last question for you to choose it and give to one or all of the presenters, please.
Okay, so there are several questions, but maybe I'll ask for the two. Okay, there's one question from Abel Awoku, Sisi Bena, saying that are beekeepers in other countries also facing vandalism of hives, honey theft? And if so, how do you deal with this problem? And also, do you think that we can be competitive on the international market with the widespread Kenyan hives in Africa?
On what, sorry?
Do you think that we can be competitive on the international market with the widespread Kenyan hives in Africa? And the first one is regarding vandalism of hives and honey theft.
Yeah, definitely we face some vandalism and some community, okay? It's one point, okay, is why it's important also to visit regularly your apiary, okay, your hives, okay, regularly. But okay, for that it's not easy to find the right solution for that. Yeah. Yeah. And regarding the international market, definitely the price of honey already in West Africa is already at a good price, okay, in terms of value. The market is not to match the international price, okay. the West African honey. You cannot match and beat the Chinese honey produced at, let's say, industrial scale. It's, let's say, to write the right story, the right traceability, also and also some certification like organic, if you want to get some advantage in terms of quality certification against some other honey. Yeah. But already locally, let's say the honey price is already at a good value. Yeah.
All right,
And
thank you
I'll
so
add
much.
to
Oh,
Sylvan.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add quickly a kind of a related story. So yes, I think certainly in East Africa we do see theft of hives, and sometimes, you know, I mentioned the cattle interfering with the hives in our project in Ghana. So it's not always people even that are causing the damage to hives. And so in some regions, what people do, the beekeepers do, is place the hives up in the branches of the trees to keep them off of the ground and to deter destruction of the hives or animals to get into the hives to eat the honey. That's another thing to think about. The story I will share is that the name Burt's Bees, our company name, actually comes from when our beekeeper, our founder beekeeper, Burt, was keeping honey 40 years ago, and his hives were stolen. And as a result, he stenciled the name Burt's Bees on the hives, and that's the origin of our company's name. So this is not only in West Africa where you have these types of challenges in hives, and it's been something that's been, I think, beekeepers have been facing around the world for decades.
Yeah, just for vandalism also. Yeah, for vandalism also, it's very important also to explain the project to the local community. Okay, to be sure, let's say the local community can accept the project, okay, not to be afraid by the bees, okay, and also is a sharing value. Is, let's say, this activity is generating some income to the local community. It can also help to reduce, let's say, this vandalism, definitely.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and close out the webinar. Before we do, I, of course, obviously wanted to thank our presenters. Thank you, Ms. Shannon Hess with Burt's Bees. Thank you, Sylvan Cotton with Koster Keunen. And both of you guys are USA Trade Hub funded, Prosper Africa funded for Koster Keunen. I have to add that. Thank you, Universal Outreach Foundation, Cecil Wilson and Etta, if she's still on the line, for sharing your stories. And thank you, Nuhu, for giving the beekeeping presentation. I do want to note something. There have been a lot of questions. Well, I've been seeing people like networking on the chat side, and there have been people who are asking if we can share the contact list. No, because that violates privacy issues. But what I will do is, for everyone who is on the registered list, I will send out an email asking if you want to opt in, like if you want to share your contact information. Because I do see that there's plenty of opportunities to network for agribusinesses and NGOs. And so we'll do that in the next 2 weeks. So thank you, everyone, again. But to close us out, I would like to bring Ms. Bettina Watang, who is a Senior Regional Communications Specialist for USAID West Africa, on the line. We are very grateful to USAID. We're very grateful to USAID West Africa and the USAID missions in general for just the excellent support that we have been given. And for those of you who may not have been aware, the Trade Hub is USAID funded, WABA-led, West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project is USAID funded, and Global Shea Alliance gets a little money from USAID, and certainly a lot of help. And so it's very appropriate that we have someone from USAID just share webinar. So if you are on, Bettina, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Chaz. Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you again. Good afternoon, everyone. Truly, on behalf of USAID's West Africa Regional Missions Economic Growth Team based in Accra, Ghana, I am absolutely honored to be here to acknowledge and simply commend all of you in attendance this afternoon, especially those of you who bared with us to the very end. I mean, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And you can see with hundreds of participants, you can clearly see the importance, the impact, and simply how sweet the topic of beekeeping is. I mean, look, we went over time, right? And truly, its overall positive economic potential for farmers, agribusinesses, the environment, and all the stakeholders all around the world. Today's engaging webinar truly showcased leaders in the beekeeping arena who undoubtedly highlighted the benefits of beekeeping and the production of honey and beeswax. Additionally, well, we heard all the buzz about the positive impact of beekeeping on the environment and the endless possibilities of economic growth space for all, in the economic growth space for all stakeholders. And more importantly, the backbone of this particular supply chain, the respected and hardworking farmers in the field, farmers like Queen Bee. So again, thank you to our co-sponsors of this webinar, the USAID-supported Global Shea Alliance, and USAID's West Africa Biodiversity and Low Emissions Development Project, also known as WABILED. And thank you, a special thank you to today's note contributors from the Universal Outreach Foundation, Koster Keunen, Burt's Bees. Your inputs all allowed us the opportunity to really see the potential money in honey, especially in the global market. To our overall host, USAID West Africa Trade and Investment Hub, commonly known as the Trade Hub. By hosting this informative and motivating webinar, you created a space for forward thinkers to review opportunities that can help generate additional revenue and positively contribute to sustainable development through beekeeping and honey and beeswax production. So again, thank you, Trade Hub. Thank you for amplifying this buzzworthy information regarding beekeeping activities. Ladies and gentlemen, in close, today's webinar is really a great example of how the collaborative connection of 3 USAID-supported entities, the Trade Hub, GSA, and WABILED, are all working together to share beneficial information that encourages the masses to learn more about beekeeping, honey production, supporting the environment, and tapping into the potential money in honey. Folks, as we continue to push past the COVID-19 pandemic, we will harness the power of entrepreneurship and innovation, trade and investment that provides the fuel to effectively facilitate deals and shape future market opportunities while protecting our planet. And we really hope that each and every one of you here with us will continue to work together, supporting a shared vision of a future of growing trade and investment that advances prosperity for all. So in close, again, thank you for your interest, and we wish you all a safe, healthy, productive year ahead that is flowing with sweet success. All the best. Chas?
Bettina, you're closing out every single last one of our Trade Hub webinars, so just letting you know in advance. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, everyone, have a good day, and thank you for staying on extra time.